well, it's 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call us to order. And I'll read this. Actually, let me pull up, let's do this properly. Let me pull up the correct copy because I've been creating the deck for the agenda for next week, so that I can post that. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote means. That means that members of the public body as well as members of the public may access the meeting remotely. The meeting may be accessed via the contact provided below on the Zoom channel, which we are all on. When required by law or allowed by chair, people wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so in person or remotely. Additionally, this meeting may be broadcast later via the town YouTube channel and Topsfield cable television, which is on and recording. Catherine, Mike, and Martha are joining now as we speak. Hi, Catherine, Mike, and
Martha.
yeah, no, I was waiting for her to come on. Martha. No, she's not actually. Martha, did you join? Yeah, okay. It was still spinning.
Okay.
So we're going to quickly, we targeted 6:10, as I said in the email, 6:10 for Martha and to start for the planning and zoning to start. Before that, I'd like to get through a couple of things quickly. Our goal is to get through that, and then at 7:15, in the other meeting, in the select board's meeting, the Essex Retirement Board is going to be participating. So my plan is that we call our meeting, or I have two computers. I will put on the other computer. I'll join with the other computer, and I'll keep this one up with a note on it saying we've all moved over there, and we will expire unless something. Ideally, as soon as we're done with Essex Retirement Board, we would vote to end our meeting from that call, if that makes sense to everybody. Really, okay. Today, what we had was zoning and planning, meeting minutes, and then review the warrant and/or with what other time we have the warrant and/or the models. And that's the extent. The two things I want to do before that, right now, is the meeting minutes from 2/9. Was it the 9th, right? Yeah, the 9th. And just everyone say hi to my wonderful wife who just brought me some food. So at some point I will.
Hey, Jack.
She just made a really nice pasta dish. So I was like, oh, I'm going to have cold pasta. And she said she'd give me a little. So I will go off when we're not doing this. I will go off. But let me share these. Just since we're
parents who may not have heard yet, school just got canceled for tomorrow.
Yeah,
really?
they're calling me as we're speaking.
This is a long Feb vacation.
A really long, and McLean missed the 3 days before it too. So,
by the way, congratulations.
Thank you. So my daughter was accepted to West Point.
Oh, awesome!
Whoa.
Great.
Did she immediately sign?
A little proud. I actually randomly tell people. There was a guy at my gym wearing an Army sweatshirt, and I was like, "Oh, hey, my daughter just got into West Point."
Oh, come on! Like, you should be telling everybody, not random.
I seriously am. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
When we have time, another time, I'll tell you how it happened. We had just finished the tour at Vanderbilt. It was such an exciting trip.
That's awesome. All right, so reviewing the meeting minutes, we have the meeting minutes. I'm going to share those. Actually, I'm going to do something risky. I'm going to share the screen and I'll just keep throwing things up. Meeting minutes from the 9th. Any comments, questions?
Nope, I read them.
Nope.
Okay. Motion?
Motion to make to approve the meeting minutes as written from is that February 9th, 2026?
Yeah.
Second.
So we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? So we have to do roll call vote here. So Catherine,
Aye.
Mike Hartman,
Aye.
Heidi,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and Michael,
Aye.
and Che, aye. All right, those are approved. Now let me pull up. The other thing I wanted to go over, just make sure, this is the agenda for next week, and I wanted to check it with everyone beforehand. We have the elementary schools. Is there anything else that we have? Other than that, it was going to be the meeting minutes, current events, review the model, and review the warrant articles
That's for this week or next week?
next week.
Okay, sure.
Which is,
Go ahead.
is that the second?
Yes.
Mhm.
Isn't Masco, didn't they say they would come?
So Masco, I wanted to check with you on that. I wasn't clear whether they were coming on the 2nd or the 9th. They
Oh,
were coming,
I
we had
thought-
asked in the meeting we were with, and we asked them to come one of those 2 days. And I thought they said the 2nd, but I wasn't clear.
Right. That's my thought. I can follow up and
Please.
confirm.
Yeah, and I'd also like to just double check with the elementary school. I'm pretty sure that they're all set. I think
Yeah.
this was a placeholder.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
yeah. And so if they don't have it, the only thing they did have, and we don't need to them to come in to discuss it, was they had Catherine, if you could actually explain it, they had the increased chapter money that they were looking to get swung their way.
Right.
So if you'll be able to explain that, that's the only other thing that I thought would be valuable for us to hear about
Okay.
and discuss. So whether you do it or they do it, that's fine. I don't think we need them to come in to ask for that money.
Got it.
Kevin's trying to get in right now. Sorry, I'm with the way I'm split right now. Let me add him in. Admit, and Mr. Gant as well. Amanda. There we go. Okay, so I believe that Amanda, Mr. Gant, and Kevin are joining us right now as well. Yep. Hi, everyone. So for all we've done is done the meeting minutes from the previous meeting. And now what we're talking about is next week's meeting, confirming elementary school is going to be, and confirming if they're coming. We had asked Masco to come. We had suggested that it would be good for Masco to come and give us an update before they finalize their budget. And then they'd have to come after they finalize it, but it'd be good for them to, I think it would be good for them to hear what our thoughts are before they vote on the budget. Whether they do anything or not with those thoughts, I thought it'd be good. So we'll see on that. Both Catherine and Heidi, can you get back to me on those? I'm going to probably post this way. I can always edit it, but that way I don't forget it. Michael, a reminder, you're doing the AV on Monday.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's this coming Monday was the Monday that you were going to do it. I'll talk with you offline. I'll be online from lovely Florida doing that to talk you through anything. It's not you.
Yeah, I should have taken notes, but I'll be fine. I'll figure it out.
You join the meeting. You just join the meeting like you are. You plug in just like you did today.
Yeah.
Plug in the owl. Come a little early. Plug in the owl, and then you join the meeting separately on the other one with everything muted.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
No problem.
Okay. All right. Anything else here on the agenda for next week? Amanda and Kevin as well, if you have anything. But the idea is meeting minutes, current events, elementary school and/or Masco model, and then the warrant articles.
Yeah.
Are there any town departments we haven't heard from, Che? I was thinking,
So according
maybe
to,
we don't need to. I was thinking the assessor and one other one came down, building.
Accountant.
Treasurer.
The accountant.
Yeah, well, we get to hear from the accountant every
Yeah.
week, but, um, so accounting did speak a little bit on the February 2nd, I believe. So far, this were held true with the exception of, because I keep track of it. There was really nothing else. The assessor, that was the
Yeah.
one that was supposed to come and was on
Correct.
vacation.
Okay.
Wants, needs, requested, or don't care, or
Oh, are there any new things with the assessor? I didn't see any in the budget.
budget-wise, no.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. I mean, unless someone has some deep questions about the assessing process, I don't know that we need to, but I'll defer to everyone else.
Uh,
All right. One last thing. I've said 6:10 will be 2 minutes. I want to just give a quick update on two things. You guys saw the updated warrant. Something you may or may not have noticed is there are 50 odd items on the warrant. Something
52.
else you may or may not have noticed is there's a desire based on that to try and shorten it by way of consent agendas. A reminder for everyone here who, in case you're not aware of how that works, hang on, there's three others, Bob Moriarty and Joe Geller are both joining now. The way the consent agenda works, any one person can stand up and say, I would like this particular article discussed separately.
Mhm.
So it doesn't prevent anybody in the town meeting from saying this one matters to me and doing it. But what it does is it defaults to, okay, we're going to take these 2, 5, 8 items and we're going to vote them as one single item. And if one of them got brought out and none of the other ones did, then that one would be delayed. They'd vote the first 4. And then that one that had been requested to be pulled out by any one person would get discussed and voted. Okay? Unlike last time, recently we've been in the 30s for warrant articles. Being in the 50s, we'd like to get through this a little faster. So that's there. So be aware of that. We'll talk more about it. Please look at it. And if you have any feedback back to the select board, we can share that next week.
Okay.
But please look at it and the logical lumping of those. The other piece, and we can talk further, and I'm going to need a volunteer on this. I'm going to volunteer someone. It's been 6 years or 7 years since we've reviewed our financial policies.
Mhm.
The administration has gotten has gotten support from the DOR, where the DOR, thanks to Amanda going to a conference, a state conference, found out about it. The DOR will come in and review and participate with you as we review the financial policies. We need to have a finance committee member who participates in that. And I'm going to, how to say this? I'm going to ask that if anyone wants to do it, that's great. But I'm going to think about it as someone who can spend the next 4 or 5 years or 3 years or 5 years on the committee explaining the logic, provide that historical knowledge as we go forward. So if you're thinking that you're not going to re-up after the next time, I would ask that you don't put your name forward. If no one else does, fine, that's great. But I just think it's a valuable thing for us to have someone who 4 years from now can sit here and say, yeah, we did that because. It's a test. So we'll talk next week on that as well. I need to give a name to I need to give a name next week.
Oh,
Okay?
Okay.
That was it. does anybody have anything else before we hand off to Martha? Martha, is it you and Bob who are going to be doing most of this, or
Yeah,
as well?
I can explain the warrant articles that we're putting
Okay.
forward. Bob is welcome to chime in, but I think there are some other matters that we need to discuss that is the reason we're both here. You know?
Okay.
So I'm not
Yeah.
sure what version of the warrant you're working on.
I'm going to pull the most recent version and
Yeah.
share that.
Wonderful.
Right. So
Martha, have you seen the 5.03? Do you have a copy of that one?
What is that, Kevin?
Did you get a copy of the 5.03 warrant? Have you seen that yet? I went out on Thursday. I don't think I get a chance to send that to you.
No, I don't have that.
I'll make sure
Okay,
you get.
then which one are you, Martha, which one are you working off of? We'll work off of that one.
Let's see. Version
on it?
3.01.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if you want, Martha, if you want, I can forward to you right now so you can see it. It's basically the list that you gave me after we met last week. Do you remember the one with the remaining 4, I believe?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we have only 4, I think, to talk
Okay.
about.
It's-
All right, I'll just pull up the most recent. And
yeah, if you could do that.
It's loading now.
Mr. Chair, I know you, before we're going to get into this, you asked if there's any other current events. I know it was at the very top of the meeting.
Go ahead.
I know 7:15, the select board will be meeting with.
Yeah,
Essex. Okay.
we're gonna end this meeting by then at 7:10. We're gonna jump over to the select board and I'm gonna manage
Yep.
we will hopefully we'll get through this and then we will end our meeting by voting to end it at the select board meeting, rubbing it in their faces that we're done before then. But seriously, all right. So we have
Okay,
the
hey,
warrant.
if you can get down to the zoning
Yeah,
articles.
We'll do.
It starts with Article 33 on this
Yeah,
version.
I just wanted to size it up so that
all right.
there we go. There we go. 33rd.
Okay, great. These minor changes to what we had at last year's town meeting come from the Attorney General. And we consulted with KP about how to address the issues. Right now, you can say that ADUs do not include recreational vehicles, or anything not mounted on a foundation. So they didn't like trailers, because I guess trailers, can be mounted on a foundation. But anyway, this is the language that we're recommending. And at the same time, as you scroll down a little bit more, we required a single parking space for each ADU. Well, I guess they didn't realize that Topsfield's closest transit station is 3.5 miles away. So they insist that we say that as the language reads, if any part of a lot is located outside a half-mile radius of a transit station. So it's just cleaning up the language from last year, and it should be fine. The next one, full-service restaurant, we're adding takeout service. Okay, because in fact, the North American Industrial Classification System, the NAICS code, actually has this language in it, that is, full services restaurants can provide takeout, carry-out service. So this uncomplicates an issue for any full-service restaurant, that they don't have to get a second permit from us, that one would do.
Martha, what is carry-out service? Is that
Takeout.
picking up a pizza?
No, it's a takeout service. So if you order a full meal from a full service restaurant,
Yeah.
you can order it to go. Basically, you can go and pick it up.
Okay. Okay. All right. Does the common do that? I thought, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's part of the,
Yeah.
the restaurant scene these days.
Okay, yeah.
And so this was actually recommended that we do something about this. It was recommended by the zoning board.
Thank
That
you. Thank
okay.
you. I'm just being ignorant. Thanks.
Okay, scenic road. This came from cleaning up our rules and regulations and applications. This is not a zoning bylaw. It's a general bylaw that is managed by the planning board, but it currently reads special permit. But that's not what all of our other materials do. So we're recommending that we take out the word special permits and just leave it as permits. Okay. Any questions on that?
No.
It was just a little housekeeping. And then this next one, the accessory buildings, there were two changes here, and both of them came to us from the building inspector. One problem that he has been having is that people wish to construct enormous accessory buildings. And I think he was required to issue, because there was no dimensional requirement, that he ended up having to issue a 40 by 70 corrugated steel structure, on a residential lot. So he asked that we put in a dimensional standard. And so what we're saying is that except for agricultural uses, accessory buildings cannot be greater than 50% of the principal structure. And that's a fairly standard percentage. We looked around at other communities, and 50% is essentially what most do. This, of course, excludes agricultural buildings. So if someone wants to build a stable, for horses or large animals or something like that, they could still do that. There we go. The second piece here is that apparently there were changes in state regulations about swimming pool fencing, and that he was having difficulty because people were trying to avoid putting up a fence around the swimming pool. So what we've done is we've simply lifted language out of, swimming pool safety regulations that exist elsewhere, basically saying that you have to have a 4-foot high fence. You can't use a pool cover, you can't use anything else. So we have a fence, and then the gates must be kept locked, and that the exterior of the fence is designed so that people can't climb over it, either by using cutouts or having the members of the fence on the outside of the fence. So that's it. That's what we have. And any questions?
Martha, one question on the first part with the dimensional requirements. I thought there was something from the state that said something about the ADU cannot be more than 900 square feet. Does that play into this at all?
No. These are not ADUs. Okay.
Oh, okay.
These are things like garages and sheds and, the other kinds of accessory
Oh, all right. Yep.
buildings that
Yep.
people put up. And we've been very careful not to confuse this with the ADU regulations, because those are fixed by the state,
Right.
greater than 900 square feet by right. But this applies to those other types of accessory building structures on lots. As I say, a garage, a pool house, a tool shed, whatever people want, a chicken coop, a kennel.
Yeah.
Okay. Bob, would you like to say anything about these?
Martha, as usual, you handled it brilliantly, so
Oh.
I don't have anything else to add.
Oh, thank you.
Quick question
Any other
on,
questions?
yeah, question on the 50%. So it says accessory building and structures cannot be greater than 50% of the principal structure. Is that determined as each building, or is that the sum of the accessory buildings and structures can't be greater?
No, this is the principal structure. So
No,
each lot has a principal structure,
right, but
house.
if I have three, I have two garages on my property, and each of them are 30% the size of the principal structure. So together, they're 60% the size of the principal structure. Am I am I allowed by this or not allowed?
This does not address the number of structures that you can have on the property.
Oh,
So I could have 5 structures, each of them being 49% of the size of the principal?
mhm.
Bob, what do you think about that?
That would not be my interpretation. My interpretation is it says it's in the plural, so accessory buildings
Right.
and structures cannot be greater than 50% of the principal structure. So my view of that is that it's cumulative. So if you have
Yeah.
2 structures that are 30%, then you're in excess of what the bylaw allows, but you can have 1 30% and 1 20%.
Would it be appropriate to add something to that then that says the total, I don't know, it's just the total, cannot be greater than of the 20, the total accessory buildings and structures size cannot be greater than. So I don't know how the wording, but it just,
Yeah.
because I read it, I thought what you're saying is the case, but I could also see someone standing up and arguing, no, because it's multiples because you're saying either buildings or structures, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not a lawyer, but I could see that argument, that lack of clarity.
Okay.
Um,
So there's
my
a guy on my
consent done?
street who has an enormous barn that can hold like a 18-wheeler. It's bigger
Yeah.
than his house. Is he stuck here or is he grandfathered?
Anything that's in existence. Oh, Bob, why don't you answer?
Yeah, I mean, anything which is in existence prior to the publication
Okay.
of the change in the zoning bylaw would be a legally existing prior non-conforming use.
Right.
But
Or
he would
structure.
not, he would never be able to put up another structure.
Right. Okay. No, it's big. I mean, he used to run an oil business out of his backyard, and
Yeah.
and so he could store an oil truck in there. No, then he can't. The grandson who's got the house just
Yeah.
has
Well,
has a boathouse.
there are some very large
Yeah.
structures here and there in town, but as Bob says, they're, non-conforming. They're legally non-conforming structures. It wouldn't affect anything that exists right now.
Okay.
Okay, Bob, do you think we should add something about this being cumulative?
We could. I mean, we could certainly say that the total of all of the square footage of all accessory buildings and structures cannot be greater than 50% of.
Yeah, well, we can easily do that for the public hearing on this bylaw. At the planning board public hearing, we can, take a version of this that includes that to the public hearing.
Yeah, I don't know at what point it gets frozen for.
Yeah, I think we're still good. It's after the public hearing, I think that it would be frozen.
Okay.
I think, but you're the expert. Okay. I expect that there are some other questions for us.
So before.
So I would,
So before we get to, there was some budget requests related to hours and things that I believe we're going to discuss. There's any questions? I think we have a couple of citizens petitions, and I know they're not directly related to, zoning, and you're not required to put anything out there. But there is, I believe, I understood that there is some history behind these, or some information that you may or may not have. I don't know, but I just know that these things do feel like they're citizens petitions, but they're kind of zoning and in nature.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
we have to review the citizens petition.
Okay, you do. Okay.
It's my understanding because it is a zoning change and the planning board needs to review and recommend, take a report to town meeting about anything affecting zoning. So I do believe that it's certainly worth discussing. The background is, okay.
Could I just chime in on that? So Miss Morrison, I just want to, before we say that definitively. I think I'd like to check with KP on that, only because if it's not being voted through and recommended by the two boards, and it's a standalone citizens petition, I don't believe the same review is necessary or appropriate. But I wanted to follow up offline. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about that in the process, but that's one thing I want to just mention, that maybe we should. I'm planning to talk with KP, and that's on my list to find out what's the process associated with that. A non driven article from the two boards, because I know they won't have a chance to weigh in on the content and the language itself. They'll just have to look at what's been presented.
Okay, well, keep in mind that the zoning board does not vote on these matters. It's the planning board that has a statutory obligation to make a report on any zoning articles that go to town meeting. So do check, by all means, do check. But we were planning to include this in our public hearing as we review the bylaw changes. Now, the background to this is that we've been talking about this for quite a long time. And this is not new. This is something that has been floating around. And I think Bob described it best when he said that when we notice a problem, when we see that there's a problem, we attempt to address it to fix whatever might be causing the problem. Now, the problem appears to be that whenever we have outdoor amplified music in residential neighborhoods, there is disruption and there are complaints. So that is one issue. We've seen it in a number of cases. And so that was what first sort of alerted us to this. The other thing is that the original intent of this bylaw, which was promulgated, 20 years ago, was preservation. It was to allow historic properties, historic structures to be repurposed if they were not attractive as single-family homes anymore. And so, indeed, this was used by the Commons. They got the special permit by Pierce Farm that Willowdale operates more or less as one of these, only they're under the state. And Coolidge Hall at the fairgrounds is has been deemed a grandfathered conference and event facility. So all of those are essentially indoors. And the Pierce Farm issue, when it converted from an educational operation to a wedding venue, was our first indication that there could be a problem. Now, Bob can speak to that one because the zoning board was handling it. And Bob, do you want to comment on the neighbor's reaction?
Yeah, when Pierce Farm first converted, as you said, from an educational facility to a wedding facility, there were some issues and problems with the abutters, but they were able to work through those issues and reach an accommodation with the rest of the neighborhood. They were blessed with a property that really didn't have a lot of immediate abutters, and since primarily most of the activity was located indoors, it worked out. And in fact, this past year, when there was a transfer of the property, the abutters were largely in favor of continuing the use and supported allowing the transfer. So Pierce Farm worked out well. The second one that we've had is Connemara Farm, which didn't work out well, became an issue and was an ongoing issue for 3 consecutive years, trying to work through the issue, and with noise and complaints from the neighbors, primarily English Commons, but others as well. And I'm sorry, my screen is taking off on me. But that's been resolved. But Alfalfa Farm is now applying for, we had applied for an outdoor tent facility with amplified music. And in fact, beyond weddings, they also wanted to do paid music events and such. So, and we have another completely unlicensed, unpermitted potential use in a residential neighborhood. So, I think, frankly, from my perspective as zoning chair, dealing with very lengthy, contentious, and difficult hearings over facilities with amplified music in a residential area, that my view is that they don't belong in Topsfield, that it's not a use which is compatible with residential areas of the town. And I'm greatly concerned that as the bylaw currently exists, it essentially allows for the possibility of these facilities with amplified music that are permitted to go to right to the edge of what is defined as a nuisance under Massachusetts state regulation. And I simply don't think that it fits what we want in Topsfield. So I would be in favor of the changes that are here, so that it's an indoor facility. The indoor facilities that we have worked out well with limited outdoor music and decibel levels that are half of what amounts to a nuisance within the town. So,
Yeah. I mean, 5
I,
dB
I
is
would
not
like
much.
to, I would like to add that Pierce Farm is building a greenhouse structure that will confine the noise, the music, to the inside of that structure, so that they can conduct sort of semi-outdoor type activities, specifically without disrupting the neighbors and without causing a problem. Now, we've been discussing this for a very long time, so this isn't new, and it is worth noting that at our joint meeting of the planning and the zoning boards, the majority of the members present in each board was in favor of supporting this, this change. So that I know that the ZBA, that has had to struggle with this and deal with irate citizens and all sorts of difficulty, recognize the need for it. And the planning board, certainly the majority of the members agree that this would be an appropriate action.
So you got question there, though. If the majority have agreed, why aren't you presenting? Why aren't you bringing it forward? Why is this a citizen's
because we
petition?
haven't voted on it yet.
But you've already said, so you've chosen not to bring it forward this year, though, right? In essence.
We tabled it for further discussion at the planning board.
Yeah.
And before we could do anything, a citizen's petition arose that covered what it was that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So we, essentially felt, okay, we don't need to do anything more about this because it's on the warrant. Now, we will find out whether the planning board has to review this. We'll hear what KP has to say about it. But we do have it on the public hearing notice, so that if we do have to review it, it's covered under the public hearing notice. Anyway, so Kevin, if you can get back to us about that, we'd greatly appreciate it. We don't want to be reviewing something we don't have to review. Yeah.
Yeah, Ms. Morrison. So what I'm going to do is I'm trying to schedule this call with Lauren Goldberg, one of the partners at KPA, and we'll have a discussion on how to approach a citizen's petition that hasn't had a chance to be reviewed by them or by the boards themselves, the language itself, and if it's appropriate for it to be officially weighed in supported by the board or not, or if it would have to be an individual
Okay. As I
commentary.
say, we haven't had any particular vote or anything, but the sense of the joint meeting was what I reported to you. Anyway, so that's the situation with the citizens petition. Kevin, let us know so we can figure out what we need to do. Okay?
So great. Any other
And-
questions or comments from the finance committee?
I could have one comment.
Well,
It seems like if you would write the art, it seems like at least Bob thinks something like is a good idea. Would it make sense for Topsfield to write one the way they want it written as a competing amendment or something? Or is what's
Actually, this is the one that was before us.
okay?
This is the one that had come before us that we had been discussing.
Oh, okay.
So the citizen, used the language.
Okay. All right. Then I withdraw mine.
But-
Yeah.
well, my question is, if the planning board doesn't have to report, we still have to recommend, as the finance committee, we have to make a recommendation, correct? On a
Correct.
citizen's petition?
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
That has happened. That's happened in the past. There's been times where there was a time where the vote was even with the recusal years ago from the boards, and the finance committee we had no direction, and we had to recommend or not recommend. So either way on this one, we have to give a response.
Right.
So, Ms. Fox, so basically the process typically is that the planning board and the ZBA at certain points work together on identifying planning or zoning articles that need to be changed, or bylaws that should be looked at for review. ADU, MBT, multi-family housing, take sometimes years to look at, and have sometimes outside support in looking at those. This one was brought up. There's some really good, I think, intentions and merits, and some things that need to be considered, and things that should be, I think, identified within the special permit. I think that, and I think I've mentioned this to this board previously when I produced the last warrant that, and this home rule petition came in, that the process of ensuring that the boards have a chance to debate the language, and that our KP law has a chance to look at that language, and the process that we follow on zoning articles is consistent and collaborative, so the whole community has a chance to understand early what's happening is really important. I think that whether this passes or doesn't, I think I would like to work with the planning board and ZBA and my team next year to come up with an article that does address this. To your point, Mr. Hartman, it's a great point. Like, should we start writing it? I think we should. And we should start think about it now for next year, so we have time to really put the thought into it, so we don't have any unintended consequences as a result of a citizen's petition. And allow the boards to do what the boards do, which is to really get in there, roll up their sleeves, work together, have difference of opinions, change the language. That language was being worked on right up until the last minute it was submitted as a home rule petition. I'm sure it would add more changes with more time. So I appreciate both chairs' perspective on it, and we'll work together, whether it's passed or not passed, on an article for next year.
So from a finance committee, any other comments?
No.
No. Okay, then we will look to see. I'm very interested in that, as Heidi mentioned. We're going to have to give a positive or no recommendation, no action recommendation for this one way or the other. I don't have enough information on it to assess. I don't know what. I mean, ultimately, it comes down to, is 5 dBA above ambient noise reasonable or not? How do you measure that? Those are things I'd be curious about. Can you be successful with it? The other thing, just personally, just before on mine, is zoning's complex. Zoning's hard. I remember when I first joined finance committee, Martha, you were out and speaking to that, how many years it took just for you to feel like you weren't underwater. I forget the term you used, and while I respect everything here, I'm scared that a citizen's petition is leaning in towards, not for this. This is a process thing, not this particular issue, but that we're using that a citizen's petition is being used towards zoning. can't stop anyone from doing it, but it's just a scary thing in my mind because it is so complex and so hard.
Well, but I think that's why I will be interested to see what KP has to
Yeah.
say. But that's why typically anything affecting zoning has to be reviewed by the planning board. And so if it is something that is unacceptable or is weird or wild or anything, then the planning board makes a report to town meeting to say, no, this is ridiculous. No, we can't, we don't recommend this. Because I think that I do believe that it's appropriate that the planning board review citizens' petitions relative to zoning. Now, they're unusual in Topsfield, but they are not unusual elsewhere. That there are often citizens' petitions that show up relative to zoning for better or for worse. But it is not unusual for this to happen in communities. And it's often the case that the citizen petition is put forward to be sure that the item gets to town meeting so that the citizens get to vote on it. So I think, do keep that in mind. As I say, I expect that members of both the zoning and the planning board would be speaking in favor of this at town meeting. Again, we haven't reviewed it entirely because we haven't done the public hearing yet. Bob, what's your feeling about that?
Just in terms of background, I think in large part why this wasn't advanced by the planning and zoning boards this year was in deference to Kevin's wishes to have some time to review this. And frankly, as Martha indicated, this is what I drafted for consideration by the planning board and the zoning board. And I think that if Kevin had not indicated he wanted to wait and have it further reviewed, that this is what the two boards would have proposed for this coming annual town meeting. From my own personal perspective, as I've indicated, I don't think that an amplified music facility in a residential district is appropriate for the town of Topsfield. And as currently drafted, the bylaw allows for a special permit. In order to do that, a special permit is a standard which is not as stringent as, for example, a variance would be for the zoning board to grant. So it is typically something which courts expect the board to grant with reasonable conditions placed upon it. And in fact, town council has advised us that we would be acting arbitrarily and capriciously to deny a special permit for, in the case we were looking at Connemara, when we were looking at denying the permit there. So my view is that we're in a situation where essentially someone coming in would be entitled legally to obtain a special permit for a facility that is outdoors, enclosed only by canvas tent, and permitted to have amplified music, which is allowed to go to 10 decibels at the property level, which is the state's definition of a noise nuisance. So, essentially operate 4 or 5 nights a week during, all of the nice period of the year. So, my view is that the known danger of allowing that kind of a use exceeds the potential unintended consequences of changing the bylaw to limit it in the manner in which the citizen's petition has been presented. So that's my view.
A great deal of our discussions have centered on the impact on residents, long-term residents of the town, and that the allowing a facility as Bob described, having to allow a facility that has loud music right on the property line, which is a part of this whole thing, has an impact on our residents, our citizens. I do know that the residents who have complained bitterly, first about Connemara and then about the potential at Alfalfa, have said, where is the town? Why are we not being protected? How is it that, we've been here for 40 years, for 20 years, for whatever it is, and that now all of a sudden my property values are going to go down. I won't be able to enjoy my neighborhood. I won't be able to, for 6 months out of the year, there'll be loud music, weekends, nights, the idea of concerts during the week. And I do think we have to consider, the how we take care of our, law-abiding, tax-paying residents who have made Topsfield their home, or who struggle to stay in Topsfield, to struggle to, come here and to keep their houses, and, in the face of, rising taxes and everything else, that I do think we need to keep those people in mind as well, as we look at all of this. That's sort of where I'm coming from here, that we owe our citizens, some kind of protection, and not have their lives turned upside down.
Mr. Chairman, could I just make one comment?
Please.
We
We got to move forward. We've got about 15 minutes.
I'll be very brief. I know Mr. Moriarty referenced my involvement earlier, and I appreciate that because it was something that we talked about, and I know you were working to try to find a bylaw that could make sense in this year, and we talked about trying to work together for next year. And the home rule petition came in. I will say this: every single resident for each of these projects have been referenced. My office, my team, myself have worked hand in glove with any one neighbor who's reached out to us with any type of concern on noises. We've spent incredible amount of time on Connemara, my police chief, myself, and others in the rec room at English Commons, many times with 50 plus people at a time, having conversations, working in good faith with them, trying to come up with collaborative ways for both entities to find a happy medium based on what we were dealt with. And at the time, it was allowed because of ag tourism. It was decided it wasn't. And then they went through the process of getting the special permit. That is Connemara Farm, as it was referenced. Continue to work hand in glove with the neighbors to make sure that their best interests were considered, as well as preserving the farm. And I know there was a lot of concerns and issues. I can say this, though, since a year and a half ago when this was resolved, we've gotten 0 calls and complaints about noise issues. And I just reference that because we do care as well about the residents and their impacts. And we worked really hard, and we continue to work really hard on that project and any other project to make sure that the residents' interests are considered as well. But you understand that the bylaw needs to always be looked at. It's a living document. We need to make sure we get it right. And there is some real good merit in protecting the residents in residential neighborhoods' best interests when it comes to events, conference centers, and noise associated with it. And I think that a holistic look at it is where we need to go. But we do care as well, very much so. We work our tails off. We do it every day.
I'm just letting you know what certainly concerns me. And I do know that what Connemara was able to do at great effort and expense to limit all of the problems, those same conditions when presented elsewhere were rejected, and that basically they could not be applied, mainly because Connemara was volunteering, to do all of that, to be cooperative.
Yep. And that other application.
So I'm gonna step in here just because I want to get us to our 2 next things on this, which are, thank you for that. Once we get clarity on this, we may ask Martha or someone to come back just to help us, because at this point, this is going to be something that it's an actual assessment on the limit, understanding what ambient noise means, because ambient noise, when I Google it, ambient noise +5 is considered a whisper. So I don't know what, so if we get there with this, and you all we're going to need help with that.
Sure,
then-
Bob can tell you all about ambient noise levels because that was the major issue at Connemara.
We'll do
Jay,
this.
5 dBA is not much.
Moving beyond that one now, because ultimately we've got to figure that out. I think the last thing we had was was not on the warrants, but was actually financial, the actual on the budget itself. There was some work.
No, I didn't know anything about this, but I will tell you that it's a good, if I haven't even read it yet.
Yeah.
But one of the big issues for both the zoning and the planning board, along with Conscom and anyone else, is that the law currently requires that you publish, your legal notices in a newspaper with a certain, 2 weeks ahead of time, and so that they're very expensive. Now, we have our applicants pay for those, but they pay a lot, to publish those legal notices. And it would be lovely if they could be published in a different way. We tried to go to a less expensive newspaper, but it turned out that it didn't have enough circulation. It wasn't well enough known. So KP recommended against it. But I don't know how you feel about this, Bob, but it certainly would be a relief for the applicants, and it would be a relief for the town that has to file legal notices. So,
Yeah, it's unfortunately a double-edged sword because print media can only survive because of legal advertising and other type of publications and ads that are required to be run in print journals. And I guess it's not our job to continue to keep them in existence. So I would have to be in support of allowing other types of media for legal notices, as long as they reach a certain standard of having a general circulation, which is, I think it was the Ipswich newspaper that we had looked at for possible publications, and then turned out they didn't have enough of a paid circulation to be considered to be legally sufficient. But, as I said, it's only a double-edged sword. Part of my practice is foreclosures, and it sometimes feels like when you call a newspaper and say you want to run a foreclosure ad, that you can see the glee in everyone's eyes.
By the way, Jay, Joe Geller, I think, is waiting in the waiting room. Have you let him in?
I think he got added.
I think he's on.
Okay, good. He texted me about that.
We had added him in. I think he dropped, but yeah, Joe's in.
Yeah, good. Now,
Thanks
did you
for
want
letting
to
me know.
talk about this, the planning department?
Yes. The
So
budget.
before we do this digital ad, is there any questions on this one?
No.
Basically, this is just asking us to go to the state and ask the state for permission to be able to do digital notices.
Right.
Okay. All right. That's the end of the things in the warrant, correct?
Yes.
Cool. So then what we had, Heidi, you want to take it for a quick second? We got about 10 to 15 minutes, worst case scenario, or maybe quicker.
Yeah, so, well, I just wanted I wanted Martha and Bob to weigh in on the budget for a planner.
Would it be
and Huh?
Sorry, Heidi, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought you'd paused.
Go ahead, Heidi.
Yeah. No, just because it's a new position, and with Lynn Bermudez's resignation, it's an opportunity to talk about how the work is divided between the administrative assistant and a planner.
Mr. Chair, and would it be okay, because I haven't had the opportunity to address this with the FinCom yet, and this is it was derived by the select board at the last omnibus stage, to maybe say a few words on it and so the board can be
yeah, so let's start with the context of what this is. I'm trying to find the actual, pull it up in the budget and then share it so we can
Line
show it. But why don't you go
268.
ahead and explain, give context first, not reasons, just numbers, context.
100%. So basically, back in 2021, worked with Ms. Morrison around an economic development planner, a full-time planner position, which we had approval from the select board 4-1. Ms. Morrison and I worked on the job description. We were basically at the 11th hour and we had to balance the budget and we couldn't add the position. Subsequently, Donna Rich retired. And when she retired, who was doing about 4 to 6 hours, her words, a week, supporting the boards, we created the part-time position, the senior administrative position, to support the boards exclusively. And Donna was a hybrid. She was a procurement officer doing the support for the boards. Lynn Bermudez took that role, I think, at 10 hours the first year. It did a phenomenal job. And the position with the MBT multifamily housing and with the ADUs and the number of things that have come up over the last few years plus since she took over has done a phenomenal job. And the job grew to a 15-hour position. This year, Ms. Morrison and Lynn approached me. We talked about the position needing to be a 19-hour position, stormwater and other things, creating more needs. Economic development in and of itself happening in Topsfield requires more attention from a planner or planning support. And so with that information, the board was looking at a full-time planner this year. The select board was, but after meeting with Chair Moriarty and Chair Morrison at our work session, we discussed the budget. We reallocated funds out of our base budget to basically take the $30,000 net cost to bring a halftime planner in, maintain the 15-hour admin position, which we heard was something that was very important to both chairs and to the boards, and allow us to have those additional halftime planner at no additional cost, because like I said, we cut out of our budget other costs to cover that additional cost. Not the justification for it or to sell it, but there's a number of reasons why. And I think with time being limited tonight, I'm not going to necessarily get into that, but that is the genesis of where it came. The board did decide, instead of an $80,000 position with benefits and all that, that it made sense to do a halftime position unbenefited, like we've done with every other position, prove its worth, prove its merit. And to make sure that we provide the two boards the proper amount of support. As you know, Board of Health, Conservation have full-time department heads and half-time admins that support those two boards. And planning and zoning is not getting less busy. You can see the article we spent 45 minutes talking about tonight, among many, many other things that have come up with MBTA multifamily housing, MS4, stormwater requirements and reviews, online, putting our bylaws online and searchable, not just by PDF. That takes, we have to go back 10 plus years, maybe 20 years worth of town meetings to look at that. But we heard the boards, we modified it down to 15. We found the money to cover the halftime planner. And that's what's being proposed in version 2 of the omnibus. So thank you for letting me at least give some content, because we hadn't had that opportunity, and I'll sit back and.
So at this point, what we really want to hear is, since give Bob and Martha, FinCom will talk later on it, discuss it and everything, but any context from Bob or Martha or Joe or anyone that wants to speak to it.
I'll start off and then I'll turn it over to Bob. There has been a fundamental misunderstanding of what this job is. That for 20 years, we had 19 hours a week of a grade 7 person. and that was what the planning board needed for, and the zoning board needed for support. It's not that someone spent a few hours a week on it and then MBTA and ADU came along. For 20 years, we have been working on significant legislation for the town, including grants from MAPC, stormwater and erosion control, you name it. We've been very, very busy over this 20-year period, and we had 19 hours a week of a professional level employee to manage this, Roberta Knight and then Donna Rich. Now we were given 10 hours a week of a grade 5. This is not a secretarial position. We have said this repeatedly. This requires interaction with the public. It requires interaction with the various agencies that we work with, MAPC, departments in the state government. Lynn and I spent a fair amount of time with the EPA this year, also connected in with all the stormwater, MS4, and everything else. So this isn't all new work. This is a kind of work and the level of work that we have been conducting for 20 years. When we ended up with a few hours of secretarial support, it wasn't enough. And then when the more stormwater, because we don't have a stormwater coordinator anymore, all kinds of new jobs were added to the support person for the planning and the zoning boards. Now, we called the person that we had a community development coordinator. That was the title, and the person did professional level work on all levels of planning and zoning. So I'm concerned that the half-time planner position is in fact a replacement for the person who did all of that work plus the clerical work. And now we're ending up with another 15 hours of clerical work that I mean, I don't see it. I'm concerned there is no job description. There was a job description once, but there is no job description. I don't know what this planner is going to do. Bob, would you like to make some comments?
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I just want to second what Martha had said about the position that serves the planning and zoning board. We've attempted to cut back hours where we could, and it just simply isn't possible. And we've ended up, we were at 19, we went back to 10, and we got 15, and then stormwater got added. So we wanted to go to 19, but I think we're back down to 15 again. And my real concern, I think echoing what Martha said about the planner, is that I'm just not sure what it is that the planner is going to do. And my view is that while what the person who works for us does require a level of sophistication, which the past people have had. When you look at some of the things that Lynn and Donna have done for us, and in terms of working with the public and working with state agencies, we do need a level of sophistication which is above purely a secretarial view. My other concern is that as a taxpayer, I'm really concerned that a half-time planner becomes a half-time planner plus a half-time admin person to service the half-time planner, who then becomes a full-time planner with a half-time admin person, and who then becomes a full-time admin person. So I know some people on the select board have complained about job creep with respect to us trying to get back closer to the number of hours that we've traditionally had. But to me, given where our tax rate is in relationship to most of the rest of Essex County, I just don't see that we have a boom of economic development coming towards us that it's going to pay for this planner or economic coordinator, and that we're going to end up with in fact, two full-time positions. That is a luxury that the town is simply not in a position to afford.
A very serious concern is that the town is essentially built out. If you think about the kind of economic development that would be necessary to even pay for this planner, I don't know where it would happen. That we're at a point where, there are not great swaths of property available in Topsfield for development. There, may be some rebuilding here and there. But it's not clear to me as to what a planner would actually do, with this time. It seems puzzling. Whenever anyone, hears about this, they say, but we're all built out. Where is something going to happen? Which is quite a concern. Anyway, that's certainly, I think, how I feel about it. And I agree with Bob that we've been accused of creep because we're just trying to get back to where we were. And this is even more creep that is not likely to end as is presented.
Questions? Comments from the FinCom members?
I
It's a
really
little
appreciate
early.
that
We need to
perspective.
get more information, and understand it more. It sounds like you do too, Martha, but what would be helpful is, from my perspective, would be just you speak to the 19 hours that you had, and then the drop. What's dropping? What's failing? What's not getting done because
Well,
you
what
don't have those
happened?
hours?
Oh, well,
Right.
when we didn't have Lynn, and we had no one for a while.
Right.
We had nothing. It put Bob and me back in the position of, doing the clerical work and support for the boards. So then we ended up with 10 hours a week. That 10 hours a week was rapidly, it meant that nothing in the way of, the dealing with the records, nothing with the way of, all of the rules and the regulations and the cleaning up of everything that's required on a regular basis was getting done. But do keep in mind that we need a person with professional expertise in this job, someone who understands something about town government and about bylaws, about mass general law, about land use. And we've been blessed by having first Roberta Knight, then Donna Rich, and then Bermuda's, who were able to pick up the slack. But as I say, I don't know what this job. I don't even know what this
Yeah,
person.
but that's not respect. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is what's not getting done because you don't have the time. I get it. You don't understand where this job is going, and neither do us. But right now, you're saying you need those hours. As I understand this, I think you need those hours
We
back.
need the 19 hours a week at a grade 7 level,
Right.
typically.
That
Yeah,
you had previously.
that we
So
had
what?
for 20 years.
Yeah. What hasn't been getting done since that
Okay.
was removed?
When we didn't have 15 hours a week, what wasn't getting done was the regular review of rules, regulations, applications. Lynn, by the way, just did that beautifully and wonderfully. These things have to be maintained. You have to keep after them and fix them. When we were really short on hours, our prep for town meeting was seriously affected. That, we had to really cut back in terms of what we were contemplating doing and what we could do. That, essentially we were operating on the bare minimum of produce an agenda, take some minutes, and deal with a couple of the applications coming in. And we regularly went over the hours and were criticized for that because some of the work had to be done. I mean, there are certain things that an application comes in, if we don't act on it within a certain amount of time, it's constructively approved. And so there was a constant scramble there during those times when we didn't have the hours, just to try and keep on top of it all. Bob, do you want to add to that? You're
Oh,
on
my goodness.
mute, Bob.
Yeah, no, I'm not on mute. Am I?
Not
No.
now.
Okay. Is this? Oh, my internet connection is unstable, so I apologize for that. But I think Kevin had indicated some of the things that aren't getting done, like review of the zoning bylaws.
Okay.
And we have records that are still in town hall that have not been scanned or brought onto the current system. We're in the process now where the server for the web is being changed, and we're not going to have anyone who has the time to actually move stuff over to the new server and learn the server. So yeah, and there's a constant flow of things that need to get done, and
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I think we got it. There you're back. I want to thank you. Marshall's pinging me right now. Joining, yeah, joining. So, let me just tell him to hold the Essex environment there. So at this point, I think that gives us the context. We'll get the other side of the context, and then we'll probably have questions back and forth over the next. We are now at the point that we have a month before we got to have completed our recommendations. So we'll get some more context and then move forward. Are there any final questions from the FinCom members before we head off to the other meeting?
No.
Not immediately, no. But
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is suspend this. I want to thank Martha, you, Bob, Joe as well for joining and participating. I'm going to suspend this meeting with the intent of us reconnecting on the select board's meeting, simply for the only agenda item of meeting with and hearing the from the Essex Retirement Board's member. And then we will probably end our meeting there in that room, virtual room. All right.
See you in a minute.
See you in a minute. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.